more often.
This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good evening. 3 days after the failed coup in Panama, President Bush and his aides have been forced by facts to change their story, reverse themselves, and acknowledge that they and the United States government were involved. This has brought new questions about their handling, critics say bungling, of the Bush team's first crisis operation. The president said today he doesn't regret anything. He said the use of American military force turned out to be not warranted anyway, and he denied that the United States actually turned down a chance to take General Manuel Noriega prisoner. Noriega himself has boasted from the beginning that he was telling the truth and the President of the United States was not. He boasted today to CBS News correspondent Doug Tennell about his courage under fire.
Manuel Noriega invited CBS News into his headquarters in Panama City today, pointing out some of the bullet holes from Tuesday's coup and providing a rare glimpse of the inner offices where the coup was mounted and where it failed. Noriega said he was under fire for 5.5 hours here, but he said he was never detained by rebel leaders. I decided they would have to kill me here, he said. I could not be a coward. He said that had the coup succeeded, there would have been chaos and more bloodshed in Panama. Ever since the gun smoke cleared, Noriega has consistently charged the United States with helping the coup leaders and given details of how and where. The night the coup was put down, Noriega told an interviewer U.S. troops had blocked naval units, an anti-terrorism contingent, and a company of troops from reaching the scene of the fighting. Noriega has repeatedly said American troops cut the Pan-American Highway, an accusation substantiated by local residents and Noriega associates who described the U.S. checkpoints that blocked the way to Panama City during the fighting.
They used a payloader saying that it had broken down in the road and they had several armed tanks surrounding the payloader.
The 12,000 American troops based here have had a lot of practice confronting Panamanian forces along the roads in the last few months. It's no longer unusual for American mechanized units to come out of the barracks, stop cars, create traffic jams, and even prevent the Panamanian forces from leaving their military facilities. 2 months ago, an American unit on maneuver blockaded Fort Amador and confronted Panamanian troops there. On Tuesday, coup leaders reportedly asked the Americans to repeat the blockade, this time for real. Sources in Panama City say the coup leaders told American officials here they did not want to turn Noriega over to the Americans. Noriega says they never really had him. A group of unidentified men, believed to be Noriega loyalists, ransacked the radio station today that broadcast the first communique from coup leaders. The regime denies that any rebels were put to death. But diplomats here believe Panama's strongman, who once boasted his role model was Genghis Khan, ordered the execution of the coup's leaders, and loyal troops obeyed. Doug Tennell, CBS News, Panama.
So the president and other U.S. officials backpedaled from earlier accounts today and conceded that the United States did, after all, play a military support role in the coup attempt. Now, because of the Panama Canal, there are, of course, thousands of American troops stationed in and around Panama City, capable of a wide range of military options. Over here is Noriega's headquarters in downtown Panama City, the barracks that were seized by the rebels, with Noriega inside at the outset of the rebellion. Down here is Fort Amador. It's about a mile away, separated by water. It's a fort shared by U.S. troops in Noriega's 5th Company. The U.S. troops, as it turned out, did block any movement between here and the Noriega headquarters. Up here is the Pan American Highway, the main road leading right to the barracks. U.S. forces closed it off at the edge of the city near the U.S. Air Force Base. The American forces were in position for several hours while Noriega himself was trapped in a small space and surrounded by rebel forces. During that time, and here's where accounts differ, in the confusion of smoke and gunfire, the rebels either asked or did not ask the U.S. command to send a helicopter in to take the surrounded general away. CBS News has been given these photographs which purport to show U.S. troops blocking one of the roads during that time. But in any case, the U.S. did not make any further moves. It didn't send in the helicopter, and within hours, Noriega loyalists were flown in. They were landed at the airport far east of the city, and they moved right in through unblocked roads to recapture the headquarters, free Noriega, and end the uprising. Our Defense Department correspondent David Martin has been looking into this still emerging story of how the administration has changed its story and the U.S. military was involved. David?
Dan, it's now clear the Bush administration was much more deeply involved in what was going on in Panama than it let on at the time.
Earlier this week, White House spokesman Marlin Fitzwater said, quote, "We had no direct communications with the coup leaders." And White House Chief of Staff John Sununu told reporters, quote, "We didn't even know who these people were." In fact, the leader of the coup met face-to-face with CIA officers 2 days before the attempt.
We had been notified originally on Sunday in the first contact that I was aware of with respect to the possible coup.
On the day after the coup attempt, Fitzwater said, quote, "There weren't really any requests for help. In fact, the rebel leader had made a very specific request for help against Noriega's forces."
Would we be willing to block their access routes into the center of the city where the commandancia was, where the coup was expected to take place?
The U.S. honored that request by sending out units to patrol roads that might be used by forces loyal to Noriega. On Wednesday, this is how Defense Secretary Cheney described those patrols.
These are the kinds of routine exercises we've been carrying on for a long time.
Today, he described it differently.
We also deployed the mechanized company on the road from Fort Amador so that they would be in a position where if we decided we wanted to intervene militarily in the coup, we could do so.
Dan, administration officials insist these contradictions were not deliberate attempts to mislead, but simply products of the confusion which reigned at the time.
Thank you, David Martin at the Pentagon. President Bush was offering no apologies in public today, but in private, some of his own aides were saying that the new White House team, led by John Sununu, made a lot of mistakes and thus created an embarrassing situation for the president and the country. CBS News Chief White House correspondent Leslie Stahl followed the President's Day. Leslie?
Dan, as you just said, President Bush and the White House team were hanging tough publicly, denying every charge against them. That they bungled the opportunity to capture Noriega, that they lacked contingency plans, and were fed faulty or incomplete intelligence from U.S. officials in Panama.
As he left Walter Reed Hospital after minor hand surgery, the president insisted he made all the right decisions.
You know, we reviewed all the information, and I don't see anything now that would have had me make a different decision then. Look, I want to see Noriega out of there. I think the record will show that there was never a chance to have him handed over to us.
But privately, senior White House officials admit there were shortcomings in intelligence and White House procedures during the attempted coup, and they have launched an internal review of how the crisis was handled. Still, the president and his aides defend their final decision.
Well, some people seem to have wanted me to do is to unleash the full military to go in and, quote, get Noriega. That's not prudent, and that's not the way I plan to conduct the military or foreign affairs of this country.
The flap over Panama has resurrected charges that Mr. Bush has been timid in foreign policy. Conservatives say the president's failure to seize Noriega when he had the chance fits with his cautious response to the crackdown in China and to changes in the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe.
Policy that the administration is pursuing is passive. It does not want to be choosing to act. It does not want, apparently, to be in a position to take risks to bring about what it wants.
It's the conservatives who've been the most vociferously critical of the Bush performance in Panama, that despite the fact that the administration has spent the last 8 months courting conservatives, hoping for their support in just such a situation as this one. Dan?
Thank you, Leslie. 2 Senate committees began hearings on the Panama case today, with Defense Secretary Cheney and National Security Advisor Colin Powell called to testify on the U.S. role in the failed coup attempt. Those hearings were closed, so we don't know exactly what they said, but as our chief Washington correspondent Bob Schieffer reports, the committee heads were clearly not happy with what they had heard from the president's men.
When he unexpectedly popped in on a Senate session today while lobbying for his capital gains cut, the president got a warm reception. But the glad-handing could not blunt a growing feeling here that the administration had blown a chance to get rid of Noriega. The chairman of the Armed Services Committee says it now appears U.S. forces in Panama had no guidance about what to do in the event of a coup.
We had definite and long-standing policy in this country of encouraging a coup. But there were no real plans as to how the people on the ground should react to a coup if it occurred. Sometimes you have to consider the fact that your policy might succeed and have a contingency plan that's based on possibility of success.
And charged the chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee things were so disorganized the CIA was somehow left out of the loop.
It appears that the CIA was not represented, for example, in the key meetings on Monday and Tuesday in the White House Situation Room.
To Boren, the real tragedy was the signal being sent to Noriega's opponents in Panama.
This is a case of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. The people did what we've been encouraging them to do, and then we managed to stand aside and let them be defeated.
And that is what bothers so many here. While no one at the Capitol seems quite sure of just what happened, everyone here wants assurances that it won't happen again. Dan?
Thanks, Bob. Last night we reported that Panamanian opposition leader Guillermo Endara was trapped inside his political headquarters and surrounded by Noriega's armed thugs. Tonight, CBS News has been told that after negotiations with the Panamanian government, Endara has been allowed to go to the Vatican's diplomatic office in Panama City. Endara emphasizes that he has not asked for political asylum, says he does not want to leave Panama. He's still on a hunger strike. Now, still to come on the CBS Evening News, Tom Fenton on why so many East Germans are determined to leave home. And Richard Schlesinger on why America's homeless are marching on Washington.
Well, you're fine. Anything else I can help you with?
My job. It's so lonely. No one to talk to, no calls, nothing. I'm just not needed.
What is it exactly you do again?
I'm the Maytag repairman.
Oh. At Maytag, all our washers and dryers are still built to last longer and need fewer repairs.
So, can you help me?
I'm a doctor, not a miracle worker.
Maytag. Dependability, people.
This date might not mean anything to you, but it means my life to me. It's the day I had a heart attack, and it changed my life forever. Now I eat a diet low in cholesterol and saturated fat that can actually help lower my cholesterol and risk of heart disease. Fleischmann's margarine is part of that diet. Fleischmann's has 0 cholesterol, absolutely none, and low saturated fat. So don't wait for a heart attack to change your life.
Fleischmann's, because your heart is in your hands.
Outrageous. Roseanne cuts loose with a knockout tell-all interview only in this week's People. Her tearful reunion with her lost daughter, battles on the set, her raucous affair.
And look for this special People Extra edition.
A great review of the 80s.
Make your decade.
You, behind the coffee cup. Show us your Caffrey smile. Caffrey decaffeinates your smile. Caffrey toothpaste helps keep coffee and tea from staining your smile like they stain your cup. Get Caffrey toothpaste or gel and show us your Caffrey smile.
With East Germany facing one of its worst crises, with thousands of its people leaving, Soviet President Gorbachev arrived there today to help celebrate East Germany's 40th anniversary. On hand to greet him was the ailing East German leader Erich Honecker. Our report begins with Moscow correspondent Barry Peterson, who is on the scene.
It was the old man of communism greeting the new. Despite their ideological differences, 77-year-old Erich Honecker looked for all the world pleased that Mikhail Gorbachev had come calling. Gorbachev walked through a day of carefully staged events and carefully chose his words. To a group of young people, he made no direct reference to the thousands who have fled this country, offering only fatherly advice. Be patient, he said, don't panic, and don't be sad. The young rushed to touch him. Gorby yelled one, we're staying here. The hardline regime expects the Soviet Union to stand by its longtime socialist ally. But reformers here want Gorbachev to push for the kind of political changes he's already brought to his own country. He offered no support for Honecker's ways, but a promise to keep hands off East Germany, the German Democratic Republic.
Questions pertaining to the GDR are not solved in Moscow but in Berlin.
Honecker showed no sign he would change his repressive political system, blaming not himself but West Germany for the refugee crisis, calling it their smear campaign. He is the kind of old-line communist that Gorbachev is busy pushing out of office back in the Soviet Union. And at the end of the day, it was clear Gorbachev, the reformer, had won the day, standing next to a smiling Honecker at a parade of East German youth and listening while they called not for the old man of communism, but for the new. Barry Peterson, CBS News, East Berlin.
The East German regime is going through the motions, marking its 40th birthday with the usual communist set pieces. But this country's heart isn't in the state celebration. Other lights are burning night after night in East Berlin. Candles are being lit for prisoners of the regime. Prayers are being said for those jailed for demonstrating in the streets for reforms. This is not a happy time for East Germans.
A happy day, it's a difficult question. You know, where we have a lot of problems.
For me? Oh, no comment.
China is at the back of everyone's mind. It's the veiled threat from the regime if things get out of line. It's the concern of those who want reform. The fear that Alexanderplatz here in East Berlin or some other East German city could become another Tiananmen Square. East Germans see their country's turmoil night after night on West German TV. 20,000 demonstrating in Leipzig Monday, clashes with police Wednesday in Dresden. And they watch with anguish the exodus of their countrymen.
I'm saddened, and many of us are so sad. They should have stayed here. I'm saying here is a place where you can do something.
East Germans are well provided for by East European standards. They have plenty of basic food. They have basic cars. They even have discos. But bread and discos are no longer enough.
We must stay here every day and fight.
Fight for what?
For better living conditions, for democracy, freedom.
What a growing number of East Germans are praying for is basic freedoms. Their pleas for a dialogue with the regime are still rejected, but the candles they are lighting will burn longer than the torches tonight on the Unter den Linden. Tom Fenton, CBS News, East Berlin.
Tonight it's reported that 90 East Germans were injured in those clashes in Dresden that Tom Fenton just mentioned, East Germany's worst riot in decades. Reports also say that workers were deployed as militia for the first time in years in an effort to put down this unrest, which arose when refugees tried to get aboard trains departing for the West. In what is regarded as a precedent-setting decision, a San Francisco judge today granted asylum to 2 Chinese students who fled to this country after the Tiananmen massacre. The federal immigration judge said the students, members of the pro-democracy movement, established strongly that they would be persecuted if forced to return to China. Israel today formally rejected Egypt's proposal for peace talks with the Palestinians. Israel's so-called inner cabinet divided evenly on the issue, which is a defeat under cabinet rules. But ministers of the Labor Party, which supports the proposal, indicated they would still consider a compromise. And in Washington, the U.S. State Department said today's action was, and I quote, parliamentary maneuvering, and that the door is not closed to peace.
Because there's a man in Chicago planning his retirement this year. Because there's a family in Boston who hopes to send their kids to college someday. Because there's a doctor in New York looking forward to the day she'll open her own clinic. Because every investor is different, with dreams all their own. Dean Witter measures success, one investor at a time. Dean Witter, a member of the Sears Financial Network.
The #1 hit.
How fast can Ambisol relieve toothache pain? Before you can say
Ambisol.
Canker sore pain? Before you can say
Ambisol.
Ambisol relieves minor mouth pain on contact. Ambisol, liquid or gel.
So what are you doing at Dow these days, Peggy?
Well, right now I'm working in agricultural research, Grandpa. We're trying to help farmers find new ways to make every dollar work harder.
We want to keep this farm in the family a few more generations.
It's pretty tough, isn't it?
You bet. So your dad and brother don't need all the help they can get.
And you can make a difference in what tomorrow brings.
I won't let you down.
'Cause Dow lets you do great things.
This is new Hellman's cholesterol free.
Will I like it?
It has 0% cholesterol.
Will I like it?
It tastes 100% Hellman's.
I like it.
I knew you'd like it.
I knew I'd like it.
New Hellman's cholesterol free with half the fat. Bring out the best.
A new phase in the abortion controversy today. This time, the focus of the battle is Louisiana. CBS News law correspondent Rita Braver reports on the attempt to revive a Louisiana law from 1888 to outlaw abortions in 1989.
You have no right to take the... It's a law. Will never be pregnant that you will have to confront.
And today became the first state
Well, that sometimes happens. The AIDS Memorial Quilt went on display in Washington today, probably for the last time because of its size. The quilt has grown from its start 2 years ago to nearly 11,000 panels now. Those 11,000 panels weighing 13 tons. It commemorates the lives of more than 12,000 AIDS victims. The nation's civilian unemployment rate went up 0.1% in September to 5.3%. The rise was blamed in part on a loss of more than 100,000 manufacturing jobs. Stay with us, we'll have more news.
Let's go with this fabric. To my customers, every little detail means a lot, so I can't stop when my minor arthritis pain acts up. So instead of aspirin, I take Advil. My doctor told me to try Advil when my hands feel stiff from the pain. You know, one Advil is as effective as 2 regular aspirin. And that's the kind of strength I like. Yet Advil's gentler to my stomach than aspirin. For hours of relief, Advil is just my style. Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
Good morning, Joanne.
This was approved, yes?
Right, and Steve knows about the change. The exclusion of the top 10.
This is my husband, Michael. He's under a lot of pressure, but now he's doing things differently. Like taking the stairs, eating more fruit, and cutting down on cholesterol and saturated fat. That's why I cook the foods he loves with Puritan oil. Puritan has no cholesterol and is 94% saturated fat-free. I've got an idea.
The health club before dinner. Great.
Michael is feeling wonderful. And I am too.
Puritan. Make it his oil for life.
To my beautiful wife.
It's nice to know he still loves the way you look. And if you wear dentures, you can count on Effordent to freshen up dentures and clean away stains so well. With Effordent, all he'll notice is you.
What's that?
Common Sense Oat Bran.
Common sense should tell you it takes these 4 boxes to equal the vitamin and mineral nutrition in just 1 box of Total. That's more nutrition than any other cereal.
Now that makes a whole lot of sense.
In Washington tomorrow, home of the national government, a mass demonstration scheduled about housing in America. Among other things, a demonstration for and by the homeless. The disturbing number of people we see, or all too often do not see, wandering the streets of our cities and towns. Correspondent Richard Schlesinger reports tonight on the growing activism of Americans with no place to call home. Homeless, but no longer voiceless.
There is a growing militancy among America's homeless. Thousands of street people from across the country are converging on Washington for a mass demonstration tomorrow. Some have walked hundreds of miles to get there. There are so many homeless people in our cities, they almost blend into the background. And that, say the homeless and their advocates, is part of the problem.
Give them a visibility that they didn't have before, then they force themselves into our consciousness.
Got it. In the larger cities, the homeless are purposely shedding the anonymity of the shadows and the park benches. They have put up tent cities, trying to draw attention. It's working. For more than a year, New York's Tompkins Square Park, where about 100 homeless people live, has been a battleground. A riot broke out last year when police tried to impose a nighttime curfew.
I'm getting down! I'm getting down!
Today, there are still people living in the park. In Philadelphia, homeless people disrupted a city council meeting called to discuss cutting aid.
It's all well and good for the politics and the lawyers and all of them to start talking for us, but it's time for us to talk for ourselves.
Chris Henry works for the homeless from this office during the day and sleeps on New York's 47th Street at night. He is a homeless leader.
You've got to be at these meetings, you've got to be at these hearings, you've got to speak, you've got to be heard.
You talk just like a politician.
Maybe I'm around them too much.
Some of the traditional allies of the homeless are now taking a back seat.
It's the people themselves, in this case the homeless, who should lead and direct the movement, and the advocates and the lawyers should be the technicians of that movement.
Activists believe visibility is the key, and visibility is what the homeless are hoping for this weekend in Washington. Richard Schlesinger, CBS News, New York.
At least 2 students from Burma hijacked a jetliner with 85 people aboard today. They threatened to blow it up unless the Burmese military government releases political prisoners or restores democratic freedoms. The plane was on a domestic flight within Burma when it was seized and forced to fly to Thailand. Keep in mind that there's been a continuing kind of guerrilla war in Burma, an effort to overthrow the ruling military dictatorship. Careless smoking is blamed for a fire that struck a nursing home in Norfolk, Virginia. 9 people were killed and dozens injured in that fire, which broke out last night. Now, recapping our lead story tonight, General Manuel Noriega took CBS News correspondent Doug Tennell on a tour of his main headquarters, where Noriega says that he was indeed surrounding. Noriega says that nobody ever actually had a gun at his head, but he was surrounded there. Noriega bragged again that he has told the truth about what happened in Panama, and that the American president did not tell the truth. In Washington, a lot of questions being asked about how and why President Bush and his team of people came to say that the United States military was not involved in the coup attempt when, as it turns out, the U.S. military was, to at least a limited degree. All of that part of our world tonight. Bob Schieffer will be for tomorrow evening's news, and then at 10 tomorrow night, 9 Central Time, spend Saturday night with Connie Chung. Dan Rather for the CBS Evening News. I'll see you Monday. Good night.
After you've produced the yearly report in record time and made color part of your winning proposal, you'll know why Canon is the most popular copier in America. From personal to color laser copying, the choice is Canon.
Freedent's the one. If you've got dental work, you've got 3 great reasons to chew Freedent. You know, Freedent won't stick to your dental work, and Freedent keeps your breath fresh. But maybe you didn't know Freedent moistens your mouth, too. So if you hate a dry mouth like I do, chew Freedent.
Freedent's the one that took the stick out of gum, and Freedent moistens your mouth. Yeah, moistens your mouth and freshens your breath while you chew.
Non-stick Freedent moistens your mouth and freshens your breath.
I just did something incredible. 5 minutes ago, I had gray hair, but now I don't. And this is what did it. New Option Instant from Clairol. The advanced way to get rid of the gray. New Option Instant for men is different. There's no messy mixing. It's so easy. Just press, apply, and only 5 minutes later, your natural-looking color's back. Hair even feels thicker. So why look like this?
When you can look like this.
New Option Instant from Clairol. The advanced way to get rid of the gray.
You ever run up against a tough sinus cold? As tough as it gets, maximum strength Dristan is tougher. To sweep away congestion, pressure, and pain. And it won't make you drowsy. When you can't call in sick, call on Dristan. In a valley of death, ACC Power Virginia travels to Death Valley to take on the Tigers of Clemson tomorrow on CBS Sports.
This is CBS.